candidates are Matt Lendt, Lendt,
Correct.
right? And Jeff Pilon.
Pilon.
Thank you. We will begin the forum with 3 introductory questions that were provided to the candidates in advance. And candidates will answer the questions on a rotating basis with all answers limited to 1-minute response. We will begin with Jeff Pilon. First, describe your background and community involvement.
In my background, I've been my entire professional career in manufacturing. So quality control, management, responsible for budgets, organizational, hiring and training personnel. My wife and I moved to NowThen 35 years ago, and we moved out here to raise our family as free-range children. We wanted them to see wide open spaces where they can enjoy God's wonderful creation. My involvement, I've been part of the committee that started the NowThen Heritage Festival back in 2008, and I continue to be a volunteer with that festival to date. I participate annually in the NowThen Threshing Show, the Night to Unite. It's done by and the Farmers Market. I've been mayor for 6 years, council member. I'm in Anoka County Fire Protection Council, Economic Development Committee, and a board member of the League of Minnesota Cities.
Okay, thank you. And Matt Lendt, describe your background and community involvement.
All right, my background is I've been married for 29 years, lived in NowThen about 15 years, built a house, bought a piece of property, loved NowThen and wanted to build a house out here. I've had different jobs, and each job I've had over the years, I've been in a leadership and or supervisor role. I was a high school basketball coach for 9 years. I owned my own business for about 10 years, and I named it Common Sense Projects because I believe that's what's lacking in a lot of America today is people with common sense. And people often, commented, that's an interesting name for a business, but I believe that's who I am. I'm a common sense guy. Now, most recently, the last 8 years, I've been the pastor of Independent Baptist Church in Ramsey. I closed my construction business. As far as community involvement, because of circumstances, we homeschooled our children, being involved with that in all life, I haven't, I didn't have the time because of the circumstances, but now that's why I'm running for mayor. I want to make a difference in my community, and that's why circumstances have changed in life, and that's why I'm running right now. Well,
that is our second question, and it's for you to answer it. The question is, why are you seeking this office?
Okay, I'll just continue on then.
Yeah.
It is not my desire. As I said, I'm just a common sense guy. I'm just a resident. I am not a politician. I've never held a political office. My desire is not to be, start at the mayor and then go to governor and, anything like that. I just want to make a difference in my community. I think there needs to be a change in our community. As far as that, as I have been out talking to people, I think there's some issues that need to be taken care of in our community. And these are from residents, different people with experience in the staff of our community. And I believe I'm a strong leader in decision making. That's been since high school, all my jobs that I've had, and even being a pastor in our church. And I'm seeking this office basically to make a difference, not seeking it to be a career politician in any way, shape, or form, but to see what I can do to help our community grow and we go forward into the coming years.
Okay, thank you. Jeff Pilon, why are you seeking this office?
I love the city of NowThen. I describe NowThen as a little bit like heaven, but you don't have to die to get here. So we moved to NowThen so my family could enjoy living the life in the country. I've always believed it's important to actually be involved in guiding the future and being a positive influence in preserving what's valuable to me. To do that effectively, I believe building relationships and network is critical. And if you're going to make a positive difference, you got to have people you're working with to do that. One example of that would be relationships that I've developed with state representatives and senators that allowed us to get legislation passed that exempted NowThen from control of the Met Council. So we're the only city in the state that got that legislative exemption. So I've been mayor for 6 years. I want to continue the great work this council has been doing. We have the lowest tax rate in the county. We have a AA bond rating, which is unique for cities our size. And all this while still funding roads and starting a new fire department.
Okay, thank you. And now the third question that was, introductory question that was given to you ahead of time, Jeff Pilon will have you answer first. What are your goals for NowThen's future?
My goals would, first of all, to keep NowThen a wonderful country place to live. I think it's important to a lot of people that moved out here for the open spaces. I think it's important to continue the conservative financial management, the wise, efficient use. We've got a staff that's very careful with the money and the council that appreciates that. You know, we want to get the best bang for our buck in everything we do. It's extremely important that we get a successful startup and operation of this new fire station. We're going to have a city-owned fire station. We're going to be an independent entity for the first time in our history. That's extremely critical. Working with government officials and private providers to try and get high-speed internet to all residents of NowThen. Bring us into the 21st century. I want to preserve our open spaces and our large lots. And obviously public safety in this day of COVID and civil unrest. My work with the Sheriff's Department, Emergency Management, the Fire Protection Council, and the Fire Board, I think are valuable for the future.
Okay. And what are your goals for NowThen's future?
My goals there's several. The first one is promoting growth in NowThen. Now, as soon as you say the word growth, a lot of people say, oh, we don't want to do that. But there can be responsible and efficient growth. We're not looking to, I would never look to be a larger city such as Ramsey or Elk River. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's not who NowThen is. I want to keep NowThen rural with the acreage minimums that we have and average and so on, but yet promote business because business is very vital to a community. Based on the tax revenue, the employees, the people coming into, whether it's at a gas station, at a restaurant, a bank, anything like that, the patrons that do that, that go there and support that. I think business is very critical. But also, I believe promoting trust to the residents. Once again, as I've talked to people, I believe there's a lack of trust in people between the council, between the city staff, and between residents.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move to questions submitted by the community. Okay? And Matt Lendt will have you answer the first question. And it's about COVID. COVID-19 has intensified the need for reliable high-speed internet in NowThen. This is a two-part question. Please discuss how you would work with local, county, and federal governments to secure funding for high-speed internet throughout NowThen. And second, how would you convince additional high-speed internet providers to bring affordable services to all residents?
The first part of the question, in my understanding, Dave, there's been a lot of talk about, not necessarily in with COVID, but with people doing schooling at home. We homeschooled our kids, so I understand that. People working from home, that's a big concern with people. And the current council and staff and so on has been working to try and get that. So what I would do is just continue that work, whatever it took to get that high speed, because even in our service that we have out at our house, it's okay sometimes. But as you see this with COVID, and COVID isn't going away anytime soon. It may get better, it may get worse, ups and downs. But I believe that we just need to continue what's been started and going that direction. As far as, I'm fine. As far as working with local governments, I do what I can. I am not experienced in that way, but as a mayor, as a leader, you get people around you that are experienced in individual items such as that, and surround yourself with them to be able to help you make those decisions.
Okay, all right, thank you. And Jeff Pilon, discuss how you would work with local, county and federal governments to secure funding for high-speed internet throughout NowThen. And second, how would you convince additional high-speed internet providers to bring affordable services to all residents?
Well, that's $1 million question. I have been working for years now with the government officials both on the county, state, and federal level. trying to find all these promised funds that they said are out there. Unique thing about NowThen, we're a metro city, but we have the density of greater Minnesota. So the providers don't want to work with us for lack of infrastructure. I'm currently working with Senator Klobuchar's office, Representative Emmer's office, the Department of the Deed Department that administers the border-to-border broadband grants in Minnesota, working with the Economic Development Authority in Anoka County, and with the administrator in Anoka County. And they're all trying to get those providers to the table. We have working diligently with Comcast, Midco, CenturyLink, and Arvig, and right now, even with all that firepower I just said, they can't get them to the table. So if everybody has an answer to that, I'm welcome to it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm moving on to the next question, and Jeff Pilon will have you answer this first. NowThen has planning and zoning, parks and recreation, and roads and bridges committees. How will you work with and utilize these current city committees?
The Planning and Zoning Commission obviously meets most regularly because that's items that come before them, and we work with our planner on that. I am the liaison to the Planning and Zoning Committee, so I am at every one of those meetings and bring the information to the council. The Parks and Rec and the Road and Bridge, when it was first established, was necessary because we didn't have the supporting structure in our office to handle what we did. We now have the structure where that road and bridge work is being done. Our clerk treasurer's done a wonderful job bringing that information from our Public Works Department to the council. So the types of things that were being done by the road and bridge aren't as necessary under our current structure. The Park and Rec, we look at that as an ad hoc. We would want, as projects come up that need to be done, we would pull the team together and ask them to research something and then make recommendations to the council.
Okay, thank you. And Matt Lendt, again, NowThen has planning and zoning, parks and recreation, roads and bridges committees. How will you work with and utilize these current city committees?
I believe the planning and zoning actually can be utilized in a better way to take care of things that don't necessarily need to come to the city council, and that's, I believe we need a little more efficient, a little more streamlined. They can take care of things that, I'd almost say in air quotes, easier things, or things that don't need to come to the city council, but they'd obviously have to be empowered. They'd have to have the learning, the tools to be able to do that. But to have a road and bridge and a park and rec, I think the great thing about those things, even though they don't meet quite as much, is you get more input from the community as residents are on those committees. You get more viewpoints from people. It's too easy as a mayor or as a council, which obviously we're running for mayor, to make more unilateral decisions and to not include either other council members or the other committees. But I think that's very important because those are residents of our community that have a say in what goes on, and if they have the experience or they can learn, that could be a benefit to our community.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next question. And Matt Lendt will have you answer this one first. How can you better improve communications with the residents of NowThen?
I believe that, and I see this in my own life currently as a pastor of a church, I invite communication, and communication has to be two ways. Communication is not just telling somebody to do something or saying something to someone. Communication is both ways. And I believe with the residents, we need to hear them. I believe, first of all, there needs to be open and honest communication. Nothing behind closed doors, no hidden agenda. I mean, our government, not necessarily NowThen, obviously, but it's full of that. And I think that's the communication with the residents. They need to be heard, they need to be allowed to speak, and we need to listen as leaders in the community. Because residents, even as a mayor, I'm just a resident of NowThen, just like anybody else would be, and that person wants to be heard, and I want to be there to listen to them and to hear them, and that communication goes both ways.
Okay, thank you. And Jeff Pilon, How do you feel you can better improve communication with the NowThen residents?
I think, speaking as a city, I think a lot of that has to do with the improvements we've made on staff. I'm very proud of what this council did in hiring our new clerk treasurer last year, and she's been very effective in that. And looking at what we're doing with our website, greatly improved our newsletter, looking at potentially starting a Facebook page so we can get more information out in the medium that people are using. I think as far as council, one of the things that I've personally done as mayor is I give out my personal cell number, I give out personal email, and I get calls. I've got dozens of calls on my phone at any given time where people are calling me directly. If they have a question or a comment, they call me and speak to me. And I think face-to-face and in person on the phone is one of the most effective ways, along with what the city staff is doing to improve our communications overall.
All right, thank you. And we'll move on to the next question, and Jeff Pilon will have you answer this one first. What do you see as the greatest need or challenge for youth in NowThen, and how would you, as an elected official, help solve that issue?
Yeah, I think one of the greatest needs is going to, because we don't have a school in NowThen, we need to work with school districts. We have 3 different school districts. And so most of the youth activity is going to take place through the sporting events or after school or school-related activities. And so one of the things that I think is important, and what I've been doing, is attending school board meetings to make sure that NowThen residents, NowThen children are represented in their decision-making process. Because we got 2 of the larger school districts in the state that are part of NowThen in Elk River and Anoka-Hennepin. And then we have St. Francis, which is completely different. So working with the school boards who manage so much of what the kids' activity is, whether it's arts-related, sports-related, that's important to make sure. We also make sure we have recreational facilities here that the schools can utilize if they so choose.
Okay, thank you. Now, Matt Lendt, what would you see as the greatest need or challenge for youth in NowThen, and how would you, as an elected official, help solve that issue?
Well, I think it's what Jeff just mentioned towards the end of it with our facilities that we have here, because we don't have a lot of facilities, and like you said, we don't have our own school here, but utilize the facilities that we do have to bring youth in, and there's a lot of children youth in NowThen, and utilize what we have, try and grow what we have to be attractive to the residents of NowThen, to say, here are things that your kids can do in our city without having to go to other cities. Obviously, they're involved in sports and arts and all the different things in other school districts, but we have things in NowThen that we can promote to parents, to children, and say, hey, we got facilities, and try and improve them so they're better utilized by the residents.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next question. And Matt Lendt, you will be the first to answer this one. In its 2021 preliminary budget, the NowThen City Council included $207,600 to operate its own fire department. Do you favor or oppose this decision, and why?
Well, the decision was just made last night to to have our own fire department, and that's great because I'm for what's best for our community, not what's best for me or for maybe a group of people, but for our community. And the difficulty is, from what we were paying before for our fire department to now is, it's quite a jump. But knowing that is now the direction we are going, there will have to be ways to fund that, because now we own our own. It's not a joint powers with Ramsey. It's not leaning on someone else. Now we have to lean on ourselves. And so I think there will be some challenges coming with that, but it was just passed last night, and so it's in the budget. We have to move forward with it and do the best we can with it.
Okay, thank you. And Jeff Pilon, in its 2021 preliminary budget, the NowThen City Council included $207,600 to operate its own fire department. Do you favor or oppose this decision, and why?
Well, I certainly favor it because I was party to that. I was part of that decision-making process. As we researched what it would take to set up our own department, and we knew we had to put some buffer in there for things that are unknown, especially in the current situation we find ourselves in, COVID and everything else. How we respond to fires and medical emergencies, it's all changed. So what those costs are going to be, we knew it would be slightly higher. I've been on the fire board. I knew that a 2,400% increase that we were being asked from Ramsey wasn't going to be effective. I've also been able to meet with neighboring communities, and we have communities next door that are $430,000 or $1,300,000. So I think it's very responsible. We know there's going to be things we don't know yet, and I think it's a very reasonable budget to present.
Okay, all right, thank you. Move on to the next question, and Jeff Pilon, you'll answer this one first. Cities respond to county, state, and federal directions regarding COVID-19. Are there any other specific steps specific to NowThen that you think should be initiated?
I think that one of the key things is not that we initiate things, but that we make sure we're listening to what's going on and effective in other places and what's being directed. I've always been, since I've been on the council, part of the emergency management team in Anoka County, and we've been meeting related to COVID initially every day, twice a day. Now it's twice a week, once a day. And so we're informed on what the federal government's saying, what the state government's saying, what the county government's saying, and how they're coordinated. And so we take a look at how that affects us and our businesses out here and make sure that we're implementing what's reasonable. But the first and foremost is to be aware of what the regulations are, what funding is available, what teamwork is available through the emergency management units in these agencies to affect positively what's going on in NowThen.
Okay, thank you. And Matt Lendt, cities respond to county, state, and federal directions regarding COVID-19. Are there any other steps that's specific to NowThen that you feel should be initiated?
I don't know that there's any steps specific other than what we hear, but when we have to listen to what's going on out there, we can sometimes put our head in the sand and say, well, we don't need any of this, but we have to listen to what's going on. If the federal, if the county and the state are saying this, we need to pay attention. What do we need to do in NowThen for that? Even with the CARES Act and the money that is available, what can we do with that to help not necessarily stop COVID, but what could we do in our community to affect change as far as the COVID? And so I think we need to listen to what's out there. No matter what regulatory agency, someone higher governmental authority says it, we need to listen to it, but then tailor it to what we do in NowThen, because NowThen is a very unique city. It is not like a lot of the bigger cities and counties and so on around us, and so that's what we need to do.
Okay. For the next question, Matt Lendt will be the first one to answer. According to the 2010 U.S. Census, 96% of NowThen residents are white. Given that the U.S., United States, and Minnesota demographic trends indicate increasing diversity, do you think there are barriers that would have to be that should be overcome for a more inclusive NowThen? And if yes, what would be your solutions?
That's a question of our day for sure.
Yeah.
Diversity.
Yeah.
If just as an example, this is my life, as being a pastor of a church. We have a very diverse congregation. It's not a real big congregation, but it's very diverse. We have, I think, 6 different nationalities / races represented. But to make that an issue, I am not in favor of making that an issue. And NowThen, we present NowThen to everybody as, hey, come and live out here. This is a great community. This is a community where you can own some property, you can live by yourself. And as far as diversity, it doesn't matter to me. I don't look at people at all for race, color, anything like that. Whoever wants to come out to NowThen, come on out. And so to make it more diversified, that's people's decisions, as I believe that individual decisions. We don't need to necessarily diversify just for the sake of being diverse. We need to say, hey, whoever wants to come out, come on out. You're welcome to NowThen.
Okay, thank you. And Jeff Pilon, given that the United States and Minnesota demographic trends indicate increasing diversity, do you think that there are barriers to overcome for a more inclusive NowThen? And if yes, what would be your solutions?
Yeah, I don't think that there are barriers to overcome that the city controls. I think that I think we are a very welcoming community. I think we see that as we work together with the communities around us that have a more diverse population. Certainly we see that in Ramsey and Elk River and St. Francis. And I don't see anybody doing any institutional restrictions or limitations on that. I don't know what, from a city standpoint, we could do to be more proactive in that area, because one of the big things that we are concerned with out here is people's personal rights. And we don't control what people are doing with their property. So I think it's important to make sure that we communicate that we are an open and welcoming community, but I don't think at this point there are any barriers in that area.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, we have time for just one last question. And Jeff Pilon, I'll have you answer it first. It's a change of pace. If you had a day off from campaigning, what would you do for fun?
You know, I love to read. I love to garden. My children just bought property up on the North Shore, and this week I would run up to the North Shore and see beautiful maple leaves. So I enjoy what I moved out here for. I remember when I lived in the city before I moved out here, if I had a day off, I was running out to the country somewhere. Right now, I've got a beautiful, beautiful farm, and I would sit with my wife overlooking the pond and have a nice picnic lunch.
Okay, thank you. And Matt Lendt, if you had a day off from campaigning, what would you do for fun?
Sleep. No, just be more than sleep. Our family, we like to do things as a family. We have 4 adult children, 3 still live with us for the time being until they get settled where they're going in life. But recently, we had a family fishing boat. My dad had, then my brother had, now I have, and we restored it, fixed it up. And so my son and I have been fishing a lot this year. I love to fish. I just never got time to do it. And so I love fishing. But also, my wife and I, here in a couple weeks, we met about 30 years ago, and she was a teacher up in Brainerd. And so a couple weeks we're going to take a day or two and go up there and see the fall colors, and just, I mean, that's what I like to be, is be outside. I like to fish, I like to hunt, but I like to spend time with my wife and my family as well. So those are a few of the things that I would try to do on a day off.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we'll have 1-minute closing statements from each candidate, and Matt Lendt, will have you go first.
Okay. First of all, thank you to the League of Minnesota Women for hosting this. It's a forum. It's good to get some of the issues out there, not only the few that are given right away, but residents can send them in and hear what the candidates say. But I also see it as in a minute answer. It's a little tough to get to know somebody. Obviously, Jeff has been a mayor for several years on the council. He's been around in the community a long time. Me, I've been in the community, but not in the realm of politics. It's tough to get to know somebody in a minute answer, and not that it's a bad thing, but I'm encouraging people. I just sat down with somebody for about half an hour and talked to them yesterday, and I encourage you, if you want to know more about me, what I believe, just send me an email, call me on my phone, send me a text, and I'd be happy to sit down for whatever length of time so you can get to know me, what I believe, who I am, my family. I've had many good conversations. My faith is who I am. It is not separated in whether I'm a mayor, a pastor, a father, husband, contractor. And so I follow God. I follow the wisdom. I seek His wisdom and guidance. That's how I live every day in my life. And as a mayor, I would continue to do that. And so I'd appreciate your vote for me. I think I can bring NowThen further into the future as we go forward.
All right, thank you. And Jeff Pilon, your 1-minute closing statement.
Thank you. I would also like to thank the League of Women Voters. This is the first time we've had this forum, so thank you, Paula, for being a resident that allowed us to come in here, because in 12 years we've never had this opportunity. It's too bad we have to do it remotely, but appreciate the opportunity. I also want to thank the residents of NowThen for taking time to watch this, and to research each candidate, and especially for taking the time to go out and vote here in November. I'm asking for your vote for mayor of NowThen. I believe my experience in serving NowThen matters, especially in these uncertain times and with the changes that we're facing here in NowThen, the growth we are seeing. My working relationship with neighboring cities, with the school boards, with the county officials and administrators, the state and federal leaders and elected officials. These are all invaluable, and if I'm reelected, I know we'll continue to benefit here in the city of NowThen from that. So now then, I would appreciate your vote on or before November 3rd. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, candidates, for speaking to voters about the issues in this campaign and for running for the office of Mayor of NowThen. This concludes our forum.
Thank you very much.
All right, now I want to, again, this concludes our forum, and I want to thank all the candidates that have participated here tonight and for their willingness to run for public office. I want to thank for our co-sponsors, Metro North Chamber of Commerce and North Suburban Optimist Club. And thank you to NowThen City Hall for making this event possible. And thanks to all of you for watching and for your interest in becoming an informed voter. You'll find links to all the Meet the Candidate forums on our website, lwvabcmn.org. This year you have many options for voting. You can request an absentee ballot from the Secretary of State's website, mnvotes.org. Or you can vote early in person at your City Hall anytime after September 18th. Or you can vote at your polling place on Election Day, November 3rd. If you need to register to vote, or update your registration, you can do that online at minvotes.org or when you go to vote. Make your voice heard in the general election this fall. Thank you so much, and stay healthy and safe.